Good morning. Happy Wednesday. Thank you guys for coming out to our monthly AFP program. I'm going to let Cheryl introduce our speakers here in just a minute. My name is Chris Head. I am the president of the organization for this year, and just want to make a couple of announcements about things that are happening here in our association over the next couple of months. As you know, National Philanthropy Day is coming up here in November. It's our biggest event of the year, and we are currently seeking nominations for the different awards. So I encourage all of our members to go to the National Philanthropy Day website for AFP Louisville, Greater Louisville, and make a nomination of people who support your organization or who really make an impact in the community. So we are accepting nominations for another month and encourage everybody to submit as many nominations as you like for all the awards. I am going to call on Kate today. Kate's going to talk about some scholarship opportunities for some of our members.
Thank you, Chris. We have multiple different scholarship opportunities available, including a membership scholarship, a diversity scholarship, a scholarship of up to $500 to attend a professional development opportunity, and also a full scholarship available to the National AFP Icon Conference, which will be May 2nd through 4th in Las Vegas. So you get to learn and have a good time at that conference. That deadline is September 1st. Please see details for all the scholarship information on AFP's website. Thank you.
I always encourage you guys to like and follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, whatever else. We have several social media handles. So with that said, we're going to go ahead and jump into our program, and I'm going to let Cheryl introduce everybody.
Do you need me to stand, or am I okay here? Okay, great. Well, thanks, Chris, and thank you to our panelists today, and for those who are able to join us both here in person and also online. Welcome, everybody. And thank you for joining us for our program, which again is Building Community Alliances. So today's nonprofit professionals are perhaps some of the most creative and resourceful people in the workforce. The past year and a half has proven that as COVID has created new challenges that call for innovative strategies and fresh approaches. For example, nonprofits have had to rework donor and volunteer recruitment and develop new methods of engagement. They've had to rethink special events and find ways to create meaningful connections through virtual experiences. And there are, of course, also staffing shortages and budget constraints that require nonprofits to work smarter and do more with limited resources. So the purpose of today's session was created to be a helpful resource. Hopefully, you'll walk away with some new ideas and tools that will help you continue to think outside the box and seek out new partnerships with those in the community that may help you be able to advance your mission. Some ideas can include chambers of commerce, civic groups, service organizations, law enforcement entities, healthcare entities, churches, schools, and more. Speaking of chambers of commerce, I'm going to begin by introducing our first panelist, and that's David Bazanis. David is president of the Oldham Chamber in Economic Development, and that's a private-public partnership which is responsible for supporting the needs of local businesses and attracting new employers to Oldham County. David also serves as executive director of the Oldham LaGrange Development Authority, which oversees development of the Oldham Reserve, and that's a 1,000-acre Class A office park in LaGrange. I personally have had the pleasure of working closely with David over the past 2 years. He has a heart for Oldham County and a strong passion to foster a business environment that helps both for-profit and nonprofit organizations flourish. He has a degree in political science from University of Louisville, and a fun fact about David is that he also does some stand-up comedy. So maybe he'll have a joke for us later today. Next to me is Paul Bolton. Paul is director of business development for Leadership Louisville. He joined the team there, the leadership team there in March of 2021. He serves as an ambassador to present the center's comprehensive suite of learning, development, and civic engagement opportunities to new audiences. Paul comes to the center after working in higher education for the last 10 years, and before that, he held sales positions with some Fortune 500 companies. Most recently, he served as director of admissions for Spalding University, and his strength is in leadership development and he hopes to help the center achieve its ambition to grow as a national thought leader in the field of social impact leadership. Paul's a graduate of Ignite Louisville, the class of 2015. He has a bachelor's degree in communication from Spalding and a master's of science in management from Sullivan University. And a fun fact about Paul is he's married to Michelle, and they have 3 children, all teenagers, so Paul is a brave man. And then finally, we have Merv Antonio. A lot of you may recognize Merv and know him from the Center for Nonprofit Excellence. He's the director of learning there. He brings over 20 years experience in the nonprofit sector, primarily in the field of performing arts, which I did not know that about you, Merv. And he was formerly at Actors Theater of Louisville before coming to Center for Nonprofit Excellence. He holds a master's degree in organizational design and renewal from Seattle University, and he served on the board of the Kentuckiana chapter of the Association for Talent Development, Louisville Metro's Healing Possible Quorum Advisory Committee, and he also is a Leadership Louisville Bingham Fellow. He uses his experience and passion for collaboration, storytelling, whole person learning, and systems thinking to advance organizational, community, and personal learning and performance. And I also just learned a fun fact about Merv is that he took accordion lessons from David's father, who they own a music store. So very talented Merv on the accordion. So again, thank you so much to all our panelists for being with us today. And I wanted to ask you all here in the audience with us in person and also online, while we're talking, if you guys can think about an alliance or a positive relationship that you have built with a community partner. Think about how it began and how it currently is benefiting both parties. I'm hoping at the end of the panel discussion today, we might have a little time for 1 or 2 people to maybe share that about that experience, because not only can we learn great things from our panelists, but also we can learn from each other. And that's, of course, one of the benefits of this organization. So also, if anyone has questions during the presentation, if you can put those in the chat box, we'll try to get to those during our Q&A time. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to our panelists. They're going to start by introducing a little bit about their organizations, some of the ways they work with nonprofits, and then we'll get into a little bit more Q&A discussion. So which of you guys would like to start? Paul, do you want to start since you're close to me?
All right. I only have 20 minutes, so I'll make this quick. Just joking. Sorry for those people online. Wish you were here. I'm Paul Bolton, Director of Business Development at the Leadership Louisville Center. And those not familiar with the Leadership Louisville Center, were founded in 1979. And we wanted to ensure that Louisville's future leaders would be knowledgeable about issues and well-networked and passionate about success of the community. Joining the team back in March, I can assure you that that's something that is still our focus. And our mission is, and our purpose is we inspire and equip leaders to be better and do better. So how do you do that, Paul? Well, there's a lot of different ways that, well, how does Leadership Louisville do that? I do not do it myself. How do we do that? Well, we have our community leadership programs, which probably, if you're familiar with Leadership Louisville Center, you're familiar with our community leadership programs. And we have an alum right here next to me. So those programs are there for so many different levels, from our Focus Louisville, Ignite Louisville, Leadership Louisville, Bingham Fellows, and Encore. We are gathering professionals from all walks of life, from all different industries, and all different levels of their career. And with that diverse pool of our leadership programs, we're able to kind of touch some audiences that that are underserved, and utilizing our voices for their better good. And we do that in many different ways. One of the things that we do is we have our community acceleration team, and there are non-for-profits then can submit projects that they're working on for those teams to vet, for our Leadership Louisville team to vet, and to look at our project teams and our teams like Encore and Ignite to take those on and do pro bono work on behalf of the non-for-profit, which is a great opportunity locally here for those organizations. But outside of just our community leadership programs, we also have tools at the center for courses, for for the some and for the many for organizations. A lot of times with a community leadership program, you might be sending one person or two people into one of our programs. We have opportunities in our green room courses to have non-for-profits come and do a day of training, do 2 days of training to work on, working as a team, working through conflict, high performance. And then we also bring in outside partners to facilitate training as well. So I know we're going to have a Q&A, so I'll leave some things for that. But I'm glad to be here and glad to be part of this panel.
Thank you for having me here today. Thank you, Chris and Cheryl, and to the panelists and everyone here in this space and virtually as well. It's a great honor to be here today. So I've been around at the center for about 11 years at least. Just like they say, kind of feels like yesterday, but you all, I would imagine, know a lot of the stuff that we've done, mainly because we've partnered with AFP quite a bit, at least through my tenure at the center. Most recently, we just partnered with you all with Mark Roundtree on Giving USA results that we have done with the School of Philanthropy, and for the last number of years, with the help and support of AFP and Jamie Campbell, we brought the IU school down for a number of years to offer their courses, their certificate courses and whatnot. And Kate, you mentioned scholarships. I know that you've provided a lot of scholarships for folks to participate in those programs. But most recently, as it relates to fundraising, and Chris can also speak to this, we've partnered with you all, other community partners in the community, to create our own fundraising school. The difference being that we have really leaned on trying to have a strong equity focus because we realized during the last 18 months that we, as many of you experienced, the funding situation in this community between those who get resourced and those who not vary greatly. And so we were trying to address those issues, not only in terms of granting and how the money is being distributed, but also how to account for it. Right, so during COVID, a lot of the foundations just kind of relaxed their reporting structures, and that helped a lot, right, in terms of how people were able to use the money. But then there were also a lot of folks in the community who still weren't being able to access those resources. So we pulled folks in the community together. One of our principal partners is Mark Roundtree at Ashley Roundtree Associates, and between he and I and our planning committee, which Chris is a member of, and some advisors, we were able to pull a few courses to offer last term, which I think we ran 13, and we're going to run 8 this fall term. And it just gives us an opportunity not only to pull from the talented folks here in the community, but also to provide more resources and learning that is specifically targeted to the folks working in this community. So we're really excited about the work we do. So in my space, I'm in charge of a lot of the professional development, all of it really that we produce in the organization. And then we also have a consulting arm. So in addition to all the fundraising, we do marketing and finance and all the things to help make a nonprofit run. But we also have a consulting arm, and we also try to convene on issues that matter to the nonprofit sector. And also that also came out of a result of our work within the last 2 or 3 years. Many of you may recognize our CAN program, Community Activation Network, where we try to bring folks in the community to talk about issues of importance. Last quarter, we talked about public safety, and actually this fall, we're going to talk about the flow of funding in the community. So those are free. They're all virtual at this point, but it's just an opportunity for community members and leaders of the community to talk and figure out how do we solve some of these intractable problems that not only we face locally, but a lot of folks face across the country. Those three pillars, that kind of focuses us to help best help nonprofits succeed in the best way they can. So that's through capacity building, connections. How do we build networks and connections with others in the community and partnerships, and then how do we rally around community support? So those are our three pillars of our mission. So thank you for having me be here.
Great, thank you. My name's David Bazanis. I'm the president of Oldham Chamber and Economic Development. I want to thank you for inviting me to be here today. Cheryl, I'm getting to work with her for the last couple of years out in Oldham County. We shared some office space for a brief period of time, so that was fun. But I appreciate being asked to be on the panel, and I was trying to, Chambers of Commerce being nonprofits, I've always said that we're a little bit of a different animal, and so hopefully I can provide somewhat of a different take on some of the topics we'll talk about, just in terms of often the community that we represent is made up of business owners and large corporations, small mom and pop shops, nonprofit organizations and whatnot. So when it comes to fundraising and trying to build revenue to provide resources and services to the community, oftentimes we can't really attach that to being able to feed somebody who's hungry, help someone who's sick, clothe somebody who needs help. It's more of providing a service that is of value to the business community, and that audience tends to be very, very particular when it comes to a return on investment. So it puts us in a position as an organization to stay as relevant as we can. Chambers of Commerce that have been put together to create opportunities for networking and whatnot have been very effective over the years in connecting businesses and growing tax base and contributing to the business community. But of course, as the internet has changed the world and people are so connected nowadays, there's a struggle to stay relevant with your programming. And so that's something in our office our team takes very seriously. Cheryl had mentioned we are the Chamber of Commerce, but we're also economic development. And so the significance of that is that a little bit more than half of our funding comes from Oldham County Fiscal Court, the City of LaGrange, and the City of Crestwood. The rest of the revenue that our organization has comes through membership dues, any revenue we can generate from programs and events. We just recently had our annual golf scramble. We have a lot of luncheons and workshops, a lot of traditional chamber programming. But the balance between the private and the public sector is really kind of the relationship we try to manage as a facilitator when it comes to advocating for what the business community needs to be able to grow, provide good quality paying jobs, contribute to infrastructure, and broaden our tax base, which is largely residential out in Oldham County, and so a very important factor. But it also allows us to advocate for projects that aren't necessarily things that local government would find themselves advocating for initially. So an example of some conflict that could be in other communities where they're not set up the way we are. I'm hired by a board of directors who have 3 appointments from Oldham County Fiscal Court, 1 from the City of LaGrange, 1 from Crestwood. The rest are elected by the local business community and chamber members. So that allows me to advocate for things that may include trying to get a zoning change or trying to get utilities extended and some public money put into those things. Whereas oftentimes the role of the economic developer is an office within local government. And so if someone calls a governmental office and says, hey, I want to bring my stamping facility to your community, if that's something that you don't think is popular as a politician, you might say, well, we don't have any space for you, and you can push it off. Where it might be that represents 300 jobs that pay $50,000 a year, and that those people will help the small businesses and the restaurants that are in the corridor that they're looking for. So there's kind of a holistic approach that we have to bring to the governmental sector while we're actually producing programs and services for the private sector that help them grow commerce. So I'll wait for further questions there.
Okay, awesome. So we have some questions that we kind of put out there beforehand. And so the first one is, I know you guys do some specific, like Paul, you mentioned that you guys do some pro bono work with nonprofits. Merv, I know you guys do some like board matching type of programs. David, I know I've met other nonprofits through your organization. So I'm wondering if you guys can give a specific example of a way that like your organization has partnered with a nonprofit that you really feel was like win-win. Like you feel like you really helped them and also in return you received some great benefit from that. Do you guys have an example of that?
Yes, I have two short examples I'll give you. So we have our community acceleration teams and we have our project-based teams. So that's our project-based team would be like Ignite Louisville, and then you have our Encore team. So in Portland, there's the Delta Foundation. It's founded by Wes Hinton, and Wes wanted to grow and add more structure to a non-for-profit that he founded, and they do reading and literacy training along with basketball training for the youth. So the Encore team and the request that came, for the structure, meeting with Wes, they were able to do like basically a roadmap for growth, looking at the bylaws, looking at those granular things sometimes that you have at the beginning, but as times change, they need to meet the needs of that time and for growth. And then also looking at just budgeting and financial reporting. Again, partnering with that non-for-profit, what we essentially did also is, I think, outside of fundraising, because they are connected and they are raising funds, it does make it more attractive to those that are looking for some place to donate when they can kind of see that structure and the foundation and the growth opportunities. And then our Ignite Louisville partnered with Down Syndrome of Louisville, and they were able to, the ask from the executive director was something beyond just fundraising. So again, kind of same concept as the latter that I just gave you. But the Kindness Warrior program from Down Syndrome of Louisville, if you want to check that out, basically it was a advocacy and awareness, and that was done by an Ignite team. And I think those are two like win-wins, because those professionals and those that are further along in their career, or maybe retired in Encore, and those that are up and coming in their career, they're partnered with a lot of different people from a lot of different sectors, and they're working together, just as we should be doing outside of just in community leadership programs in our community, to kind of partner with one another on the just for the better good for an underserved population. So those are two examples I have.
Since our membership is nonprofits, we look at helping them at whatever stage and place they are in their organization. So whether they're starting out, kind of grassroots, all the way up to more established. We try to meet the nonprofits and their needs with where they are. So the opportunities to do that vary. But what I've learned in my time at CNP, the ones who have benefited from us, and it's become kind of a win-win, is when they've been able to slot in different points in the services or the events that we can offer. That could be from back when we were meeting in person to which was our annual conference, which we held every year down at one of the downtown hotels. Some of them include some professional development. Some of them include some interaction with Ed and then his predecessor Eric on some consulting. And then Cheryl mentioned board match. So there were times where nonprofits would need some board members, and we do have a web portal called Board Match, in which it's kind of like a match.com for board members and nonprofits. And that's been around for a few years, and we're hoping to update that within the next year or so. But I think the more that we can engage nonprofits in those areas, both in taking advantage of the professional development opportunities, whether that be fund development or marketing, or even board development. We offer a bunch of board development training, to engaging one-on-one with one of our consultants through strategic planning, again, maybe more board development, or reviewing policies and procedures, to also getting involved in some of the community. That's when I think a lot of folks can really find benefits. We also have a bunch of resources that people can use. So we always encourage people to engage with us in whatever they need. If we don't have the answers, we find them. So we want to be your partner in your own success and growth. So, thank you.
Yeah, we kind of offer a lot of those services similar to what Merv's talking about in Oldham County. So opportunities for, and we have a lot of our nonprofits in the community are members. So, as Gerald mentioned, they come to networking events. So we're always trying to promote our nonprofits. When I stepped into the role I'm in now in 2016, I had been there since 2009, and there was not a lot of specific engagement with the nonprofits under my predecessor. Not that we weren't promoting them and working with them in their causes, but it really is complicated when you represent a nonprofit and you're also representing multiple nonprofits. And so one of the first pickles I got myself into was agreeing to help, I won't name the nonprofit in Oldham County, as far as making introductions and trying to kind of kick open some doors. And then next thing you know, the president of the Chamber of Commerce is involved with us. Well, we'd like you to come join us over here at Red Cross and then the Hope Health Clinic and the Metro United Way. And next thing you know, every time any of the stakeholders in Oldham County saw me coming, they thought I was going to be asking for money for either our organization or some other organization that we're trying to support. And I thought, okay, well, this is not tenable. This isn't fair to the people who are being generous in our community. What can we actually do to help here? And so, we really work hard to try to make sure we're providing good connection points for the people in nonprofit development out in the county. There are a lot of great volunteers that are members of multiple boards that we try to make sure that we're understanding what their messaging is and providing access to, hey, here's a young leader that actually seems to have a spirit for your cause. Maybe you could add them to a committee or a board, and some of those types of things. But when it comes to really tangible help for the nonprofits, we try to make sure that we're promoting what their cause is to the right people at the right time. And we do that a lot through our, we have weekly updates and social media and whatnot, but it's really most effective when it comes through our staff. So a big part of our success with our organization is having a team that invests themselves in the relationships with all of the members that we have. And it really is, it gives a lot of personal value, I think, to our team when they can see that the work that say our Hope Health Clinic does or our Red Cross does, to know that they can help facilitate some help there, or High Point Community Services. Something we had done during COVID, as I always say, we're trying to stay relevant. We're trying to stay important to the business community so that they think of us as a resource, or they need us, that we can offer something other than just a connection or nice words or platitudes. And our Oldham County History Center, which is it's in downtown LaGrange. It's a beautiful facility, but LaGrange is actually a spot on the National Registry of the Underground Railroad. And our History Center, and the executive director of our History Center, Nancy Tice, has a tremendous amount of content related to Underground Railroad. And I called her and said we were trying to figure out some ways that we could engage the community. I had messed around with doing podcasting before. I'd listened to a lot of podcasts. I had some of the equipment. And I thought, let's go back to put on a podcast, and maybe I can reach out to some people and see if they want to do their own podcast. So I reached out to the History Center and spoke with Nancy. She was the first call that I had made. This was probably July of 2020. And she said, this is great. National Underground Railroad Month is next month. This was August. She said it's in September. And what if we did a podcast each day on a different story of the Underground Railroad, and I could have people who come in, professors, people from literally around the country who were either Zooming in or we'd have meet in person. And they would actually read a story. And I said, man, that's a great idea. Let's do it. Well, that was 30 podcasts I just committed to, and I was still kind of figuring out how to work the equipment. So it ended up being a large effort, but we were able to do it and pull it off, and it was very popular. And the History Center was they were very grateful to us for offering the opportunity, because now Nancy had something that she could use to monetize. She had something that she could promote that would help bring in more and show off what it is her work had contributed to. She's the same person that's doing the stories that's also putting on the History Gala and booking a caterer and doing all those types of things. And we want to have those leaders that are strong doing the thing that they're hired to do, not just the fundraising. And so I think that's where organizations like ours and maybe like MERS can come in and kind of help pick up some of that promotional piece that falls to the small staffing. So.
Okay, and thanks, guys. That was great. And then also, I know, Paul, you mentioned the program that they can. I think they sign up for. I'm not sure the process of how they would get engaged with potentially becoming one of those organizations that they work with. And then Merv, I don't. So just if you guys can talk a little bit about how does somebody engage with your organization if they're interested, if they want to get involved, how would they do that with your programs?
Okay, so there might be some of you all that are thinking, I have a project, but does it meet, but how do I submit that? And then those that are like, there's a lot of projects, and I'm not sure exactly which one to submit. And I think we've all been there. So, and this is a crazy year, and we got another one right in front of us. So there's probably a checklist that you have somewhere. All right, so for those that are, I don't know which project, I would push you to reach out to us. It's a normal conversation that we're willing to have, and we do. So you can start just by going to leadershiplouisville.org, and under our community programs, you can get in touch with us, or you can get in touch with me if my name's on the invite or whatever, and then I'll make sure that you are connected with our community programs team, and we sit down and have a conversation and help you through that discussion. Next is, if you are ready, it's a proposal submission. Actually, we have August 30th is when those are due, but they open up in January 2022 as well. So, and that's the beginning of the process. We actually have a very helpful checklist. I won't go over it all right now, on the website too, that will, here's where you kind of need to be if you're getting ready to submit a project, and are you the decision maker, do you have some board buy-in, and just looking at some structural things, just to make sure that we're making the best use of your time. But if you're not ready, that and there's some things that we can discuss and some topics that we can assist you through for those type of opportunities.
So with CNPE, we're membership driven, but it's a sliding scale, so it's open to any nonprofit. But you don't necessarily have to be a member to participate, although you do get considerable benefit, especially on the registration fee end. But all that information is on our website in terms of what we do. So if you are interested in any of the programs, especially in the professional development side, all you need to do is just go on the events page, especially with the fundraising school up again in the fall. Just sign up. If you're a member, it's a sliding scale, and if I mentioned that, so if based on organizational annual budget, so the ones with the smaller budget don't pay less than the larger ones. And then that's actually what we did last year that we'll do again this year for any AFP folks. We have a code, AFP20. If you apply that and you're not a member, that still gives you, I believe, either $20 or 20% off the registration fee, which I think is comparable to being a member, so it's about the same rate. And then access to consulting help. Members get 90 minutes of free consulting with Ed, and then there's also discounted rates for anything around strategic planning and the like. But regardless, we're here to serve the nonprofits and to try to make them all successful, no matter where they are, how big or how small. So if there's a question or issue, or we've actually had a couple of nonprofits call us about mandating vaccines in their organization, right? So that's a big thing. I lean on our members and everyone in the community for opportunities just like that. So that out of that, we reach out to our HR partners, and then we're in the process of developing some programs around, getting that information out there. So all that to say, from a, either a fundraising standpoint or boards, whatever you all are looking for, please let me know, let our organization know. I'm at learning@cnp.org, and we'll definitely want to hear that and, make sure that we can do what we can to help support you in that work.
Yes, if you're interested in learning more about our Chamber of Commerce, you can go to oldhamcountychamber.com, or I would love to meet you for coffee, learn about what it is that you're wanting to accomplish in our community. One of the benefits of being not just a membership organization is that we exist to serve our community. So in addition to, while we are driven by making sure that we have revenue coming in, our relationships throughout the Oldham County community, because of the merger with economic development, means that we have a lot of good relationships with companies and businesses that aren't necessarily part of the chamber networking process. So if your nonprofit wants to get involved in something that you do serves Oldham County, be happy to help you. If that led you to wanting to join our membership, we have a sliding scale that's based on how many employees of the locations. For most nonprofits, it's $150 a year, and our membership dues haven't gone up in the last 55 years. So.
Okay, great, guys. And then I know we're starting to get a little short on time. So I did want to ask if there was anybody in the room, or I don't know if you have access to the online chat, as far as if anybody has, if anybody did think of a partnership that you might be willing to share some information about. If not, I'll just keep asking our panelists questions, or or I'll open it up for you guys. But does anybody have an experience like that they would want to share, where they have actually built a community alliance they thought was super helpful? Okay, well, I don't want to put you all on the spot. Does anybody have any questions for our panelists? I don't know, do you have access to the chat as well, or there's nothing on chat? Okay. If anybody does have a question, does anybody have any questions for our panelists about anything we've talked about? No? Okay, well, I have one closing question. I'm wondering, for you guys, from your experience and the people you know in the community, maybe who are some other resources that you think would be good to reach out to? People that maybe we don't run into every day, but you have found to be people that are have valuable experience, and people that you might reach out to help advance your mission. Do you guys have any thoughts on that?
One resource that came to my mind with that is our secondary and post-secondary education leaders, and utilizing them. I think it helps spread the mission to a new demographic. I also think it starts building just some alliances early on with individuals that could be on an advisory board if they're in a kind of a younger of nature, and they're still just trying to get through college or high school. But I believe that there's issues, not issues, I don't know why I said issues. I guess we're talking a lot about issues lately. There's a lot of opportunities also partnering with those institutions for space. And then also you have a lot of students that need to do community hours. You have a lot of students that are looking for those opportunities with different groups and social things that they're involved with that could play, that might be instrumental in continuing your mission. Even if you work with one of our groups, sustainability and taking that mission forward, it's going to require volunteers. I'm sure you can't do it alone. So I think those are some partners that would be beneficial.
The educational partners are actually a really good one. I know that there's been a lot of partnerships in the community with education, like Spalding and U of L. I believe Spalding partnered with Cosair to create a leadership program for a subsector of the nonprofits. So those are very good resources. We, in fact, have partnered with U of L a couple times on a couple, data-driven kind of things. And nonprofits love data or need data, right? So it's also a great opportunity there, to get some grad student willing to help out. I would also add, folks in our corporate and the private sector, not only in terms of the board, but in terms of resources. I know, I leaned heavily on, for instance, our CPA firms a lot, especially shout out to our friends at DMLO. They've done a lot of our financial, how to read financial statements and whatnot. But more importantly, if a nonprofit has questions about finance, or why can't finance and Deville get on the same page on stuff, I tend to turn to folks like Jeff, and he's more than willing to connect with a nonprofit to answer any question, big or small, with regards to anything that they have questions or issues from. And same with law question or anything that's beyond the purview of the CNP in terms of expertise. But they've been the for-profit community, especially those who are part of the day-to-day operations of running a nonprofit, have been extremely helpful, not only in terms of my work, but obviously on the flip side, being able to then connect those folks to nonprofits like you all.
Great. I don't really put a lot of stock in the effectiveness of programs that many organizations tend to put on because they require an engagement level from who you're trying to serve. For us, it's chamber members, it's the business community, but I think that could go probably translate to a lot of different non-profit services. So I found that the people that make up your team are such an important part of the actual value that you provide the people that you serve. And so when it comes to, if that's a core belief that you have, I'm very fond of, and just kind of building off of what they had said, your stakeholders, find the good ones, find the smart ones, the ones who are smarter than you are, and spend time with them, getting to know them. Your counterparts in other organizations, go to the luncheons, go to the conferences, and commiserate. It helps you realize you're not going crazy when you realize, oh, well, a lot of the things that I go home stressed about, this is a completely different organization. It's the exact same problem. There may be something about this structure that creates this situation, and so just observing that can help you get some clarity to where you can figure out how can I be more effective. And for me, that comes through working with our board members. I have a lot of access to business leaders in our community, and I use that just to learn how to do my job better. What is it, their perception of what we're providing, really? And how can I build a relationship to where I know that? And then when I travel, I'm going to an economic development conference in a few weeks. I'm looking forward to that. I almost never even look at the agenda. I just know that my counterparts will be there. And I can learn from them. I can listen to them. They have judge executives they answer to, and maybe they manage their way through a fundraising or a development project. It's something that's some relevance. And then I also think that it's good to look at what's working for someone else and copy it. It's okay to do that. It's preferable. It's clever. But you'll also, in the process of a self-assessment of what's the real value that I'm providing in my role or our organization provides, what really works. Once you get to where you can kind of identify what works and what doesn't work, then taking somebody's idea, it will fit itself into your personality, your team's personality, and it will actually, I think that's where it can be most effective. It's very easy for a lot of well-intentioned people to get around boardroom tables and conceive of things that have acronyms related to them that fall down to staff level people to execute, where there might not necessarily be a lot of buy-in. So I'm a very big proponent of, we have a staff conversation that's constant about everything that's going on. It's very organic. How are you feeling about this? What's the response? Why don't we have our sponsorship sold on this program considering where we were last year this time? Do you think this is getting stale? Is there something else that's taken their attention away from what it is we're providing? And is it because what we're providing isn't as good? So I think those are, the only place I can get those types of improvements is really going to and working individually with people that I respect and trust to give us honest feedback on what's going on as far as a resource. I think that's your best resource, is are we doing the thing that's the point of this place? And so whatever resources you have there in leadership or your board, I think that's a great way to do it.
Awesome. All right. Well, you guys shared some great information today and appreciate your time. Chris, do you have anything in closing before we break up? And can we thank our panelists really quickly? Thanks.
I appreciate you guys being here today. That was a very interesting topic, and it's important, obviously, as nonprofits, that we do connect with other organizations in the community so that we're all working together and not competing, basically. But appreciate everybody being here today. We look forward to having you guys next month for another wonderful program, and thank you.